What's up guys, my name is Ace, and the Season 6 update for Modern Warfare 2 is here. And with this, there was some weapon balancing, which I'm going to be covering in tomorrow's video, but on top of that, we also saw a brand new trigger for the Lockwood 300, so we're going to be covering that in great detail today. And on top of this, the patch notes acknowledge the UAV bug once again, and acknowledge the fact that it was taking place on some maps, and they stated that it was fixed, but it turns out that wasn't actually the case. So let's dive right into this, and let's start it off with that UAV bug. Just a quick recap of this bug. This has been present since the launch of Season 4, so it's been around for about 3.5 months at this point. And with it, on some maps, when you have a UAV in the air, enemy locations will be revealed in real time for a short period of time between sweeps of your UAV, rather than what's supposed to happen with a UAV, which is when it sweeps, it's supposed to ping your static location in that given moment without ever following the player. So you should never really see those dots moving unless they're moving and firing an unsuppressed gun. So this has made the Ghost perk a complete crutch, at least on these maps that were broken, and here's a breakdown that I did of all the maps and which ones are bugged and which ones aren't bugged when it comes to this, or at least which ones are bugged worse than the others. Some of the ones on the left, there is still a slight amount of follow on the enemy character, but not enough that it really mattered that much. But with this, it's a pretty serious issue because now people can track exactly where you are in real time for short periods of time, and that can give them a lot more information than the UAV is supposed to be providing for you, which again makes Ghost essential on many of the maps in the game. So with Season 6, they mentioned in the patch notes that they fixed an issue where the UAV killstreak pings enemy locations in between scans on some multiplayer maps. So it appeared that they were aware of this bug, and they were aware of the fact that it's only appearing on some maps, which is nice to see that they're apparently gaining some understanding of the bug. However, when the update came out, I got mixed results. Now, the first map that I got into and tested was on Mercado Las Almas, and this map was one of the worst for this bug. Your location would be tracked for quite some time in real time when a UAV sweeps. And I was really happy to see that on Mercado today, the UAV bug was actually fixed on this map, and it's now working as intended. You can see every time it sweeps, you see the location of that enemy in that moment, but it doesn't follow them at all. So that was looking pretty promising, but I have been burned on this in the past where I've just tested a couple maps and thought the UAV bug was fixed, but then it turned out it was only fixed on some maps. So I booted up another game, and this time we got on Vondel Waterfront, which again is one of those maps where the UAV bug was very present before this update. And unfortunately, this is working exactly the same as pre-patch. Enemy dots are still moving for a brief period of time, and therefore this confirms that this bug was not fully fixed. So that's really unfortunate. Today, I just wanted to give you that update that some maps have been fixed, some maps haven't been fixed apparently based on this brief testing. I'm thinking I will make another one of those videos testing every single map in the game to see which ones have been fixed and which ones haven't, so you can use that as a reference, so you know when you have to use the Ghost perk and when you don't really need to use the Ghost perk. But that's not going to fit within the scope of this video. I just wanted to do the basic testing to see if it was in fact fixed, and unfortunately it only seems like it was partially fixed. Now let's move on to the brand new trigger for the Lockwood 300 shotgun. And with this trigger, it fires both barrels at the same time, but it also has some cons attached to it. We have reduced magazine ammo capacity, reduced damage range, increased recoil, and then of course you have to fire both shells at once. You can't just fire one or the other, which effectively reduces our fire rate or our ability to get a second shot off faster. And let's start this off with our one-shot kill potential to see if this has an impact. Now, with this testing, I did use the Bryson choke just to make sure we're getting a nice tight pellet spread. I use it in both cases. And as we can see here, while aiming down sight for the tightest possible pellet spread and aiming center mass but not for a headshot, our one-shot kill potential with this trigger is about 13 meters. Whereas when we take this trigger off, we actually get a slightly better one-shot kill potential at about 14.5 meters. So that's interesting to note. You would think that firing both barrels at once would end up giving us a better one-shot kill potential, and that's not actually the case. However, what this does do is it significantly improves our consistency and our ability to get essentially a guaranteed one-shot kill, even if we're not nicely centered on the target and we don't hit too many pellets on target. And with this, without the dual trigger, just the standard Lockwood, when we're aiming pretty far off the target here, making sure we're not hitting a headshot, we're only going to be getting a consistent one-shot kill here if we're about 6 meters from our target or less. Anything more than that, and you're likely to get a hit marker in this case. Whereas with the new trigger on this, we see a lot more consistency, and we're almost guaranteed a one-shot kill as long as we can hit a pellet out to around 9.5 meters. So that's a very noticeable increase to that range. And what this means is if you are using this trigger, you typically want to have the widest possible hip fire spread. You don't want a tight pellet spread, you just want to be able to hit pellets. And when you build the gun like this, for instance, with the shortest possible barrel, it's going to be that much easier to hit and kill your targets as long as you can get within that 9.5 meters or so. So overall, damage-wise, I think this is actually a nice trade-off here. You do lose a little bit of your one-shot kill potential for a really precise shot on target, but in giving that up, you gain way more consistency when you get into those closer range situations. And I do think that's a fair trade-off, especially when you combine it with the fact that our effective fire rate is now only 27 rounds per minute. Because like I said, you can't just fire one shot and then immediately have that next shot ready to go. You need to reload both shells right after you fire a shot. And with that, it's going to take us 2.2 seconds to do that with or without fast hands. It is worth noting that based on my testing at least here, fast hands has no impact on your ability to reload when using this trigger. So if you do decide to try out the Lockwood 300 with this new trigger attachment, I'd highly recommend choosing a different bonus perk that's not fast hands because you're effectively wasting a perk at that point. Now, after this testing, I was really curious to see what would happen if we added incendiary rounds to this to see if it makes it even more consistent and potentially increases our range. However, it turns out that incendiary rounds are just going to be harming the gun while using this, so I'd recommend staying away from incendiary on this. And instead, this is a great example build if you want to try out this new dual trigger. Again, you want to have that really wide pellet spread to go with the shortest possible barrel, tune everything for damage range whenever possible. Also, tuning towards sprint to fire time is great. You don't have to worry about aiming down sight with this attachment, so don't tune in that direction at all. It's mainly just damage range and sprint to fire time you want to be aiming for. And with that, that's everything I wanted to mention in today's video. Like I said, there was also a list of weapon balancing changes. That one is going to take a lot more time to do the testing on and put all the graphics together and everything, so that one will be coming out tomorrow. And like I said, I plan on digging deeper into this UAV bug to see which maps have been fixed and which ones are still a problem. With that, of course, I am really curious to hear from you guys in those comments down below. First off, what do you guys think about the fact that the UAV bug is still present, at least on some of the maps in the game? And second, how do you guys feel about this new dual trigger attachment they added to the Lockwood 300? Do you guys see yourself using this trigger? Do you think it's worth the trade-off of having to fire both shells at once to gain that extra consistency? Or would you rather just stick to the base version of the Lockwood that allows you to get a better one-shot kill potential with a bit less consistency in close range engagements? Just let me know all of those thoughts as well as any others that you may have regarding Season 6 in those comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated. And don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.